is over how to turn a percent to a decimal and a decimal to a percent and all that entails with it. Let's look at our do now. The table shows the makeup of a New Year's Eve television show. What fraction of the show will not be for the audience to speak? So this is audience, 20%. So not. So if you take this introduction, 10%, skits, 25%, guess, 45%, and add them up, it adds up to 80%. Another way I could think about it is, because you know one whole is equal to 100%. If you take away 20% from it, you have 80%. So what is a percent again? Percent means per 100, out of 100. So 80% is 80 per 100, or out of 100. Can we now simplify this? I can divide by 10 and get 8/10. Then I can divide by 2 and get 4/5. Another way I could have done it, I could have divided both numbers by 20. That's the greatest common factor of 80 and 100. So Mrs. Meyer baked her famous brownies. Of the 100 brownies she plans to give 720 of the brownies to her student. Shaded grid below to represent the portion of brownie that she plans to give away. So let me break this down into 20 equal parts. Because you know, kids will complain. You know, kids. It's like, that's not fair. They got a bigger part than I did. So we break it equally. As you can tell, there are 5 squares in each part. So let's shade in 7 of the 20. 1, group 2, groups 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I shaded 7 part of the 20 whole. So how many squares did you color in? Out of 100 squares, I shaded in 35 squares. What is the percent? 35%. What decimal is shaded? 35 hundredths. So 0 and 35 hundredths. Mr. Joe tried to bake brownies. Of the 100 brownies, he plans to give away 36 hundredths of the burnt brownies to his student. Yes. He will call it dark chocolate. Kids won't know the difference. Shade a grid below to represent the portion of the burnt brownie that he plans to give away. So I'm going to shade 36 hundredths. So I shaded 36. So how would you write? So I shaded in 36 squares out of 100, or 36 per 100. So the equivalent fraction is 3600. I could simplify this if I wanted to. I can divide both numbers by 4 and get 9/25. The percent is 36%. What decimal is shaded? 36 hundredths. This is 36 hundredths. So 36 hundredths is the same thing as saying 36 hundredths, which is the same thing as saying 36%. They're all equivalent. What we're going to do during class is we're going to be surveying 20 random students, or maybe 25 random students, of their favorite drink, and we're going to find their fraction, decimal, and percent. For example, imagine we had 7 kids out of 20. Oh, let's do something different than 7, because we just did an example of that. Let's do 11 students, or 11 out of 20 students chose cocoa. How would you build it up to per 100, or a percent? To build it up from 1120 to 100, you multiply, scale it up by 5, or 55 hundredths. What is a percent again? Percent means a number out of 100, or a number per 100. So it's 55%, or 55 hundredths can be written as its decimal. So to convert a decimal into a percent, you write the decimal as a fraction. So, for example, this is 65 hundredths. This is 5 hundredths. 2 tenths, which is equivalent to 20 hundred, is 20 hundredths. Now you write the fraction as a percent. Because what is a percent again? Remember, percent means per hundred. So what number do you have here? 65 per 100, 65%. So 5 out of 100, or 5 per 100, so it's 5%. Well, can you build to 10 to 100? You multiply by 10, so it's 20%. Another way to do it, you're going to be getting a chart called FDP. It's fraction, decimal, percent. To turn a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal 2 places to the right. Does that really work? Let's see. Here's a decimal. I move it 2 decimals to the right, 65%. 2 decimal to the right, 5%. 2 decimal to the right, 20%. In 2014, the number of people 65 years and older in Michigan was 13 hundredths of the total population. Express this as a percent. So let's do it mathematically. How would you write this as a fraction? 13 hundredths. And what is a percent again? A percent is per 100, so it's 13%. Or if you like to, you can do the FDP to turn a decimal percent. You move it twice over, 1, 2, 13%. About 41 hundredths of Hawaii's total area is water. What percent is equivalent to 0 and 41 hundredths? So write it as a fraction, 41 hundredths. What is a percent again? It's anything per 100, so it's 41%. Or if you like the FDP, you move it 2 over, 1, 2, 41%. A player's batting average was 75 thousandths rounded to the nearest. Ooh, I need to change that. Rounded to the nearest thousandths. Express this as a percent. So this is 75,000. But again, if I want to turn this to a percent, it has to be per 100. So how do I scale this down or break it down from 1,000 to 100? I divide by 10. Divide by 10. So what is 75 divided by 10? 10 goes 0 times. 10 go to 75 7 times. I need to get rid of this remainder, so add a 0.0, bring it down. 10 go 55 times. So it's 7.5 per 100, or 7.5%. If you like the FDP, you move to turn a decimal percent, you move it twice over. 1, 2, so it's 7.5%. In a recent season, Jeremy Lin of the Charlotte Hornets, he used to be with the Houston Rockets Lakers, had a field goal average of 0 and 4 tenths, rounded to the nearest hundreds. Tenths. Let me change that. What is 0.4 or 4 tenths written as a percent? So this is 4 tenths. How would you say this? 4 tenths. But again, a percent means per 100. So I have to build it up by 10. That's 40 or 40%. For those who like the FDP, to turn a decimal percent, you move it twice over. 1, 2, 40%. China accounts for 0 and 21 hundredths of the world's population. What percent of the world population does not live in China? So let's first of all, let's look at this one. Is this 21 hundredths or 21%? That's how many percent live in China, not China. So 100 minus 21 is 79, I believe. 79% do not live in China. And next one. To turn a percent into a decimal, you write the percent as per 100. For example, here's 28%. Again, what does percent mean? Per 100. It's 28 out of 100. 6 out of 100. 80% is 80 out of 100. Then you read it as you see it. 28 hundredths, the decimal is 28 hundredths. 600, 600. 80 hundred, 80 hundredths. Or, if you do not like that way, you like the FDP, to turn a percent to a decimal, you move the decimal 2 to the left. Because why 2 to the left? Because hundredths. How many places? 2 places. It's the power of 100. According to the U.S. Census, 76% of U.S. workers commute to work by driving alone. Express this as a decimal. So let's do it mathematically. Percent means per 100. So how do you say 76 hundredths as a decimal? 76 hundredths as a decimal. For those who prefer the FDP, turn a percent to a decimal. You move the decimal 2 places back. 2 places back, because you're dividing by 100. So 76%, you move the decimal 2 places back, 0.76. In a recent U.S. midterm election, 9% of eligible adults voted. Many people don't vote during the off years. What is 9% written as a decimal? So it's 9% means 9 per 100 or 9 out of 100. 9 hundredths. Is this 9 hundredths? No, that's 9 tenths. That's 9 hundredths. For those who like the FDP, to turn a percent to a decimal, you move it 2 places back. So 1, 2, 0.09 or 9 hundredths. Again, why are we moving it back? Because you're dividing by 100. When asked to choose their favorite sport, 60% of U.S. adults who follow sports selected professional football. What decimal is equivalent to 60%? So it's 60 per 100. How do you write 60 hundredths? That's how you write 60 hundredths. That's the decimal. Or FDP, 60%. To turn a percent to a decimal, you move it 2 places to 1, 2. 2 places back, 1, 2, 0.60. The table shows the percent of students in the 6th grade who chose each kind of drink as their favorite. Express the percent of students who did not choose tea, do not like tea. Well, these kids do not like tea. If you know it adds up to 100%, if 22% like tea, 100 minus 22 would be 78% do not like tea. So how would you write this as a decimal? 78 hundredths or 78 hundredths? Or FDP, move it 2 places back, 1, 2, 0.78. And last but not least, about 5.2% of the surface area of the United States is water. What decimal represents the amount of the U.S. surface area taken up by water? So this is per 100. So now this is where it gets a little harder. So how would you write this as a decimal? So we have 5.2 hundredths. So we're going to have to divide. How would you read this as a division problem? It's 5.2 divided by 100. Can 100 go in 5? 0 times. Bring down 2. Line it up. Can 100 go in 52? 0 times. 52. Add our 0. Get rid of this remainder. Can 100 go in 520? 5 groups. 20. Add our 0. Can 100 group 100 go in 200? 2 times. So the decimal is 52 thousandths. If you use FDP to turn a percent to a decimal, 1, 2, 1, 2, move it 2 places back, 0.052. I prefer both ways, but honestly, if I'm in a time rush, I do use FDP because it tells me 2 places back, 2 places forward, because they're dividing by 100 or multiplying by a power of 100. And that is how to turn fractions, decimals, and percent conversion.